And hello, hello, hello. We are live. Before I get started, I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. So, if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Please let me know in the comments that you can hear me talking. Okay, mic works. Fantastic. Hello, welcome, powerful souls. My name is Laurie Majka. I am the host of the Laurie Majka YouTube channel, where I primarily interview people who have had near death experiences, but also love to talk to people who remember their past lives, who remember planning their lives before they came here, channelers, mediums, astral travelers, spiritually transformative experiences, whatever it is, I love to talk to you. And this live is for and about you. So if you have questions that you would like answered, it can be about anything, it can be about spiritual topics, past guests that we've had on, just questions in general. I am happy to answer anything that you would like to speak about tonight. But while I'm letting the comments get heated up, and hearing what's on your mind. And I actually did collect a question that somebody wrote in the comments for the live tonight. So I will be sharing that as well. But thank you so much for joining me. If you somehow didn't know that I wasn't live last week, I super apologize to you. So I have a full-time corporate job. I work for a technology company and I'm in sales. And June 30th, this year was the end of our fiscal year, and we started a new year on July 1st. And in the 4 years I've worked for this company, they've never gotten together to do a sales kickoff in person. They're always virtual. Now, I think it's because I joined shortly after 2020, right? So nobody was traveling, everybody was doing everything virtually. But my company has a new CEO, and they made massive changes. And I think that they were trying to maybe manage those changes. Like for me personally, there is absolutely not one thing that stayed the same for me. Everything in my corporate job changed, and I'm actually literally doing a job I was not hired to do. So, not super happy with my corporation right now. But again, if things happen for you and not to you, then I have to look at things that I don't understand them right now, but at some point in time, I will. And if we're here for the joy of the experience, that means all the experiences that are challenging and interesting. And I just read an interesting article yesterday about Alzheimer's, and I'm always fascinated about Alzheimer's. I sold a drug many years ago when I was a pharma rep at Pfizer to try and help stave off the symptoms of Alzheimer's. And one of the things that they said in this article is that when you do difficult things, your brain actually scientifically prepares you in a certain way that it doesn't degrade as quickly. So, for the example that they were giving is like if you are a person that hates ice baths, but you make yourself get in it anyway, you could actually have massive brain transformation and preservation over time by doing some of these harder things. So maybe that's the purpose for me. Okay, Blaze is checking in. Hold on a second. I don't want to move the microphone because every time I do that, something happens. It does not turn out well. And the other thing that is so weird is nobody is really writing anything in the comments past how was your trip. So I want to make sure everything is live and working. Can somebody else write something in the comments to make sure that everything is good? I know I had some weird, almost like an internet thing at the very beginning when I first started. So who knows? Maybe nobody is even live with me anymore. I don't know. But it's really odd that at this point in this juncture, I would not have a bunch of comments. So wait for a second to see. Okay, good. Woo! Thank goodness. Okay, I'm good. I'm happy. Blaze, come here. Come here. Come here, my girl. Everybody can see Blaze. She wants to play. So she has a ball and look how intense she is. Blaze, you want this? Okay. She's going to probably bug me a little bit because we were just outside. But so everything has changed in my corporate job, and it's really caused kind of a firestorm of additional work for me. In the last month, so since the 22nd of June, I have actually been gone 13 days out of that time for my work. And actually, in the last 22 days, I've been gone 10, which is an awful lot of time. It's made editing a challenge. And I feel like I'm just really running behind. And also, a couple of interesting things. I would love for you guys to weigh in on this. So, I've had a few videos recently that I thought were outstanding, and the guests who were on have had hundreds of thousands to millions of views over time with their content. And we did interviews. I run my scripts through AI. I make sure that they're kind of following a story hook, which helps people to stay more engaged. They got glowing reviews. I compared them to other interviews that they've done. The assessment was that the questions were fantastic. Some people even did channeling, but these videos have fallen really, really short. And I'm just trying to understand, is it the actual content? So I know that on my channel, NDE interviews do much better than channeling interviews, which is interesting because according to the analytics on my channel, the number one most watched show of people who watch my show also is Next Level Soul, which is, I would say, 90% channeling right now. So I'm puzzled. Or is it maybe just the summer where people just aren't as engaged because the weather's been good? We've been taking advantage of being outside and maybe not being on our devices, maybe not watching different shows that we normally would watch when the seasons are different. I'm just really curious. I don't get it. I have really kind of given up trying to figure out YouTube in general. But the good news for me is I'm in my happy place. I'm at my cabin. It's blueberry season. It came early. And on Saturday and Sunday, I picked 60 cups of blueberries, like wild blueberries, organic, growing in these logging areas that have been previously logged. They leave them and blueberries proliferate. So it's my reward for the coldest summer that I can remember. It's the 22nd of July. The high today was 71 here, which is really, really low for most of the country. I know everybody is probably like, I'm jealous it's in the 90s. I'd love for it to be that cool, but I don't like it. I like it to be a little bit warmer. But in any case, I am so happy to be here with you guys. And I'm going to check in the comments in just a minute and see what you guys want to talk about, what's on your mind. Look at Blaze. She has another toy to play with. She gave up the ball that she took out of this toy and now is playing again. Okay, so I'm going to read a question from Ronnie Sharp. Ronnie's been participating in the lives for several weeks. I don't know if he's on tonight. I haven't looked yet to see who's on, but his question is, I think, a fantastic question and an understandable question. It's definitely a question I had at one point in time in my spiritual journey. And his question is, if our soul's progression is so important to God, then why are we born with so little knowledge of what it is we need to do? And most of humanity spends their entire lives never understanding this. And only a handful of us later in life begin to comprehend the importance of our eternal progression. Okay, so I'm going to highlight a few words that stood out to me in this comment. Important to God, number one. And eternal progression, number two. I want to speak to both of those things as separate items. But let's first address the part about why we are born with so little knowledge. All right, I'm basing my answer on my personal experiences on the other side, which have been numerous and very deep, where I have understood things with a very different perspective. And also now talking to, I think we are getting close to like 500 interviews on this channel. So I've spoken to a lot of people, watched, read, and listened to thousands of NDEs. So people talk about being veiled because in order to have an experience that allows you free will to make choices, meaningful choices, you can only do that if you are not completely aware of who you are as a magnificent, powerful being of love and eternity on the other side. And I really and truly believe that to be completely true. I think from what I've understood about being on the other side, that free will is the most important component of this experience. I've talked many times about an experience I had where it was understood by me and made very, very clear from the other side that if you were to take free will away, you would negate the experience. You would negate the earthly incarnation. It would make it null and void, which is contrary to a lot of videos that people have been sending me and sharing with me recently. So there are a couple different thought progressions around this. One is that every single thing you do is preordained, is set in motion, and you are just like on a live stream a couple seconds behind the live, and you're just following exactly what's happened. So it's a script, you're an actor, you're in it, and you're just following the script. You don't have free will. Everything is completely organized so that you will have this experience in a very particular way. I disagree with that because of my personal experiences, but also if you're here for the joy of the experience and all you're doing is acting it out, then how in the world do you experience an experience? Because then it's really not an experience. It's just something that you created that you're just following, like a guide that you're following. So I really have a hard time getting behind this idea that everything is preordained. I do believe that we have certain things that are probabilities that are more than maybe even 100% likely. Because if we have certain experiences that we want to experience while we're here, there has to be a setup that allows for said experiences. So, for example, if you've contracted with two souls and you said, yes, I will be your mom or dad in this lifetime, and then you have to have a partner who also is part of having those children with you, then there's no way you're not going to meet that person, fall in love, and have the children. And if you were living on a deserted island, somehow that person would be shipwrecked on that island with you to find you if that was the experience you're meant to have. So I think that there might be free will choices about how and when you meet that person, the circumstances, whether you embrace that person right away or it takes you longer. I think that all of those are free will choices, but there are certain things that you are definitely destined to have and do in order to have an experience. And I think there's evidence from people having life reviews on the other side and seeing times that they were protected because the other side knew of the experiences you were going to have. And if you fell off the cliff or drove off the cliff in your Jeep, then you weren't going to be able to have those experiences in the future. So somebody intervened like an archangel, moved the steering wheel, did something, changed something so that you didn't hit an obstacle and drive off the road. So I think that there are a lot of unknowns around this, but I'm going to go back to the other two parts that I mentioned that stood out and I wanted to highlight. So if our soul's progression is so important to God, okay, as soon as we say something like to God, we are now talking about other. So if I go on to get into the truth of how things are really set up, there is no other. There is only one experiencer having this entire experience that is the universe, that is our galaxy, that is our earth, that is all of us tuned in, watching now, in the future. There's only one. And we are all thought creations, nodes, pieces, but pieces of the whole that are the whole. So in my personal experience, I am Laurie with God looking out of my eyes, or I prefer the word source just because it expands and gets away from some of the human constraints of that being an entity, which doesn't have any human characteristics that I experienced, any likeness to a human. So if our soul's progression is so important to God, so the importance to God is that you are God having an experience, and there is an experience that you wanted to have here, that you volunteered to pretend to be this piece that is veiled, forgetting that you are all of it, that you are the source, the power, the magnificence, the one having the experience. It's the only way you could have it. If you had any inkling of the power that you really and truly are as source, you could not come here with free will and have an experience. And I will say, knowing some of these things through experience changes the game a lot. It's really hard sometimes to pretend certain things when you understand at the deepest level that it's an experience and you know what you are. So sometimes it's be careful what you wish for, because it does change your experience when you wake up and you understand things from a different perspective. I had an absolutely fascinating interview today. Oh my gosh. I interviewed a man who had an experience in a life review in the most unique fashion I've ever experienced. He had an experience with every single person he had ever met in this lifetime. And he said that they merged hearts. And it's almost like you took a sponge and wrung it out. And at the very the what was wrung out of the sponge was the most important thing that was left from that experience. And he said, even if it was somebody that you would have called an enemy, or somebody who caused you problems or did things to you in this earthly incarnation, what was distilled out of that connection every time, he said, was love. So getting super deep right in this. So then let's talk about his last part in the question, which is the importance only. So if only a handful of us late in life begin to comprehend the importance of our eternal progression. All right, the word progression I'm having a little bit of a difficulty with, because this progression implies to me that there are lessons to learn and things that are not known. Now, I will grant that I do not fully understand the breadth and depth of this human experience and why Source wanted to have it. I am not been privy to fully understanding that part. Some of these nuances are just unknown to me. But I do not believe that there is a progression. I will use something a little bit softer, which is what I would call maybe a refinement, a soul refinement, but not in anything that you are or lack, a refinement in understanding. I really and truly think that that is the purpose of this experience, to have a perspective. It's one thing to write a story. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to use J.K. Rowling's and the Harry Potter series, because I'm going to guess there's probably nobody who hasn't heard of this or maybe doesn't have a reference for this right now. She gets this idea for these books and she writes down outlines and then begins writing the books. And she's imagining all of these characters. I would imagine for her, the true joy in having done that came for her when the first movie was released and she got to see in an acting form playing out everything that she had conceived in her mind, where it wasn't just in her mind anymore. She was watching it. She could relax. She didn't have to think. She just got to experience what she had created. I kind of think that that's really close. And that just came to me. So I don't know if that was a download or if it was, I don't know. I've never had that thought before. But that's really what I think would be equated to the current eternal progression, is the joy of having this experience in a way you can't have when it's just in your mind, locked in your mind. So those are all really deep. I mean, that was a rabbit hole question for sure. Loved it. Loved talking about it. Love talking about these things. You guys and my interviews that I did this week truly are the best part of my week, other than the time I spend with Blaze hiking in the woods and blueberry picking. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to check in with the comments right now and see what is going on. So hello. Thank you everybody for wanting to join today. So hi, Scott from New Mexico, from Albuquerque specifically. Hi, Catherine, who is Authenticity. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I think I answered how my trip was. I loved Canada, but I really loved my trip to Canada when I went to a little town called Sault Ste. Marie, better than going to Toronto. For me personally, when you are super awake, I think it's really, really hard to be in some of these urban locations. And Toronto was like being in a massively big city. It was downtown. My hotel was 46 floors. My room was on the 40th floor. Beautiful views, beautiful skyline views, but like being around all those people and that energy is really not my thing. I'm such a nature person. It was really hard for me not having the ability to be in nature and walk around and feel like I was in nature at all. So it was like good because I got to connect with some people who I work with in person, some who I'd never met in person before. Love that. Love those interpersonal connections. So overall, the trip was, I'll say, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm so glad that everybody's here. Hi, Donna, listening on your drive home. Okay, so glad that you're able to. Oh, Ronnie, you're actually on. I hope I answered your question. And if you have a follow-up to it, feel free to put that in the comments right now. Yeah, okay. So Ronnie's guessing that maybe the lack of interest in watching videos right now with summer vacations. I really hope that's what it is. Like, I know I do these things and I always have great hope for all of the videos that I do, but they do live on for a long time. And even some videos that I did many years ago sometimes can take off because there's an interest or somebody finds them, something happens. So I'm always hopeful that even if they don't get the traction I think that they deserve when they get released at some point in time, or maybe the people who need them find them. I hope that always happens. So Tammy says your questions are always great. No judgment. Yes, summertime is up and down. Okay, yeah. So everybody's saying hello. Yes, I'm glad you love the question. I did too. So here, sorry, this thing jumps around. I always tell my adult children there are only two sins in life: not treating others in a space of love and kindness. And the second is taking away someone's free will. I love that. And I do really, truly believe that one of the things that we are here to experience is love of other, because on the other side, we are a being, a magnificent being of love to a proportion that you cannot really and truly understand with your human mind. So, of course, we would want to come here to experience love with other, since there's only one of us having this magnificent experience as one of as all. So I totally agree, and I love that that is your two sins that you taught your children. Good for you. That's amazing. Um, I know everybody's saying hi to each other. Catherine says, I agree with everything you're saying. How are you answering? How you're answering this question. Great. Deepa here. So excited. I happen to see, oh my gosh. Deepa is my good friend who I have worked with for the last 4 years. And I am so sorry, but she got let go from our company in all of these changes, which I think is a shame because she is such a value add to things that I do. And I want to say again, I've talked to her many times, but Deepa, thank you for being here. Thank you for all you've done to help me in my corporate job. And thank you for a friendship. Like we've talked about your hike on Kilimanjaro and lots of different personal things. And I miss you. I miss you at our company already. And I'm sad that you're not here. And I'm also happy that you're not here for the shit show that is going on right now. It's not good. It's not good. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I love it when people come, when people are able to join, or the synchronicity of you just happen to see it, right? Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, let's see. Scott, oh, thank you. I think Scott said smash the like button. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for the support and the love. I really appreciate it. Okay, Tammy said, I had an NDE, almost no details. I am so grateful now that I don't remember the bliss it took years to accept. I only remember begging 3 cloaked beans to return. It turns out it was exactly what I needed. Tammy, I don't know that I knew that about you. I mean, you've been on my channel for a long time. We've had lots of interactions. So I didn't know that. That is so crazy. And I think it's interesting that some people are told that they can't stay. Some people are told it's not your time. You must go back. Some people are told nothing and just pop back, slammed back into their bodies. And there are others who beg to come back and it happens and they're allowed to do it. And it's like you said, just what you needed. So fascinating how all of these experiences happen in such different ways. So, love that. Catherine says, I love that, Tammy. Insurance about taking years. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I know Catherine had the same thing. Toronto is very Americanized. Oh, interesting. Are you from Canada? Welcome to the Canadian Rockies. Very connecting to nature and universe. You know where I want to go in Canada, you guys? I want to get to Banff. The only thing I'm afraid about going to Banff is that the secret's out about it. It's probably going to be more crowded than I would love it to be. And I don't know that I can take Blaze to go there, but it's far from where I am. It's just pretty much above Washington State and Oregon. I think that part of the country. But I really, really, I think Canada's beautiful. And I did some very special hikes when I was just in Sault Ste. Marie, just across the border. But I think Canada is so vast, I can't even really have any knowledge of it. Just like the United States, like until you've been to different parts of the United States, like Utah, completely different than Kansas, right? Like so different, so many differences across such vast acreages of land. But I'm excited to go back to Canada and have some more time there. I was very happy, and I thought the people in Canada were lovely. So says Ronnie said deep question about his own question. Yes, Deepa is a very special person. Thank you for acknowledging her. Oh, Mr. Biggs. Okay, you were Mike. Okay, thank you for saying that. So the first NDE I read were Return from Tomorrow and Embraced by the Light. Isn't that Dannon Brinkley, Embraced by the Light? I think it is. After those books, I was hooked. You are such a perfect interview. Love your channel. Oh, thank you so much. That really makes my day. I really, really try hard to ask the deep questions, to ask the questions that maybe nobody else has asked before, to ask the questions that you would want me to ask. And I love doing it. I feel so lucky to be able to ask these deeper questions and spend time with these people. I'm really excited about the interview that's coming out this Friday. And I'm really excited about the interview that's coming out next Tuesday. I love all of my interviews, but both of these interviews that are coming out have some really unique components to them. And I'm just excited to release them. I love being able to interview them, edit them, and then share them with the world. So super excited. I'm also super. I'm kind of keeping tabs on the time tonight because you guys, I've got to edit. I've got a bunch of stuff I need to do, so I can't stay on very much longer. Maybe 15 more minutes. I'll get to everybody's questions for sure before I go. But I'm also curious. My content is by design very long. The shortest interviews usually on my channel are 45 minutes, and I've gone as long as an hour and a half on some of these interviews. But I'm getting ready to really explore taking some of my content and making it short. So having a place where you could watch only the NDE without any Q&A from me, just what I've compiled or because I'm really for the most part silent during somebody's explanation of their experience, and I would love to explore that because I think that there's some value for maybe people who are just getting into NDEs. Maybe sometimes the questions that we are talking about or the questions I'm asking are so deep, it's more than somebody's ready for, and they're just looking for evidential evidence, and trying to decide if these experiences are real. But I'm just curious, what is your preference? Do you have other channels you watch where you only watch the NDE and it's maybe a 14-minute video or 20-minute video instead of a longer form content? I'm curious what you guys think. I should do one of those surveys on my channel. I don't know if you guys can hear Blaze, but she's behind me. Look at her. Look at her right behind the couch with her toy in her mouth. What a crazy dog. Okay. I'm gonna go back to looking at the comments. Oh, thank you, Deepa. Call me soon. Yes, I would love to talk to you. So Ronnie, I'll follow up with some questions later this week if that's all right. Yeah, if you want to do that, like if you guys have questions throughout the week, I had a really hard time managing the comments because the comments are just so they're such a big part of this channel now. And I just did not have time other because I was trying to edit on the fly in between dinners and these meetings and all this other stuff. So I didn't get to the comments much, but usually I am very active in the comments. I spend several hours a week. If you have questions that you think of and you don't want to wait until live, you can put a comment on one of the newer videos and I will likely see it, write it down, and be happy to address it, even if you can't participate in the live, because you can always watch the replay. Okay, so Deepa, people are commiserating with you. I love that. So Nova Scotia is paradise for a nature girl. Okay, I have to put that on my list. Thank you very much. Hi, Lewis. Thank you for keeping our NDE experiences alive, sharing maybe difficult times, but people like you help to make it easier. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Mike says, I live in Alberta. Oh, a secret rustic area of Banff. Jasper is Highway 11 onto the mountains. Maybe when I get closer to wanting to do that, maybe I'll reach out and see if you can give me some hints and tips for the area. I'm definitely going to go one of these times. Um, oh, so Catherine says, I heard Dr. Yvonne Kasem talk about meditating at powerful places, Niagara, but I think she got cut off. Okay. Can you tell us any other power places? Okay, the only thing that I know, and I'm not a meditator, you guys, and you may have heard me talk about meditation. I feel like by design is not something I am meant to do in this lifetime. I think this is my assessment. If I were a good meditator, I think I would spend significant times not living my life and doing meditation. I really think this is why finding the 5-MeO DMT has been a blessing for me because it's allowed me to have those experiences and maybe even more heightened ones, but without that time commitment because I don't have to do it every day. It's not something you do every day or weekly or anything like that, right? You do them when you're called to do them. So I do feel that some powerful places that I have been are Muir Woods, which is in the San Francisco area. I have been mesmerized by that place. And I think it's because of the energies of the giant redwood trees. It is beyond special, not just visually, but energetically. I've also spent a lot of time in Sedona, Arizona. For those of you who don't know, I live most of the year in Cave Creek, Arizona, which is about 90 minutes from Sedona. And I visited Sedona for the first time in 2007. And I knew the day that I stepped into Sedona that I would move to Arizona because of that sacred, special area. And when I did finally move to Arizona at the end of 2015, I think I made trips to Sedona every single month. I've hiked extensively there. I've guided hiking trips there. Blaze is really out of control tonight. Sorry. But it's energetically special. There are vortex areas that are definitely documented. I actually recorded 2 of the videos I did in the Uncover Your Soul's Purpose there. Actually, 3 videos. I found the largest cottonwood tree in Arizona and did a cool video about illustrating how the tree represented the soul connections we have to others, our soul branches, our soul families, and then ultimately to source and all the other spirits on the other side. So, yeah, energetically, Sedona for sure. For me, I think my place in the UP in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is super special. I don't think that I would have a place up here if I didn't feel that way about it. But I just think that you maybe have a calling to different places, and I don't think that they're necessarily the same for everybody. I think Sedona definitely has something about it that is a call for everybody. Another place I found to be very sacred for me is the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but I recognize that the most people are never going to go to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And then I will state that my very favorite place on earth that I have ever experienced, and I have been to every continent now except for Antarctica, is Havasupai, which is an Indian reservation inside the Grand Canyon with multitudes of waterfalls. It is magnificent. I've been there 7 times. I've been lucky enough to get permits for it. It's unbelievable, but it's a 10-mile trip down into the Grand Canyon to this very remote village, and you have to camp there, or if you're lucky enough to get a hotel, which I wouldn't stay in. I always camp when I go there, but those are the places that I found to be energetically charged that I can think of right now. But I think everybody probably has a draw to places because of past incarnations, whether they're consciously aware of them or not. I think that we get drawn into places that we've spent time in that have been special to us in some capacity, in some way, shape, or form. And so maybe that's even more important than things that are energetically known to everybody, that everybody would be drawn to maybe a place like Sedona, because maybe everybody could feel that. So hope that answers your questions. Thank you. I'm so glad that you love the question and answers. That's amazing. Yeah, some other people are saying that they're not meditators either. Yeah, I do walking meditations. I guess I would call them walking meditations because sometimes I do get into like a zone of meditation, but for the most part, I really do not meditate. My thing is I just like to spend time in nature, and maybe that's enough for my spiritual journey. Um, Alvarado is saying hello to everybody. Catherine is saying I was kind of forced to learn how to meditate because of chronic pain. Odd, really slowed me down, and it's part of the purpose of my life. Sedona is a place I want to go. Well, Sedona should definitely be on everybody's list. I wonder if I were to do a retreat in Sedona, how many of you watching now or in the future would be interested in doing some kind of a retreat? I would never do it by myself. I would do it with others. I've talked to several other people who have had an interest in connecting and doing some kind of a retreat, but I've toyed with this idea. The only reason I haven't done it is because I kind of felt that until the channel is big enough and you have a large enough audience that would actually trust you to join you on something like that, it's a big investment because you have to pay for everything in advance. And a lot of times when you book places that would accommodate a large enough amount of people, that's it. Like you're locked in. So it would be a little bit of a chance I'd be taking that I could fully fill some kind of a retreat, but I would so love, and I wanted to. And if you look on my website, you'll see retreats. I don't do them. I actually sold that house that I would have been able to have some retreats in. And I'm glad because it'll allow me to leave my corporate job sooner than later, which for now I'd really like to do sooner. But I'm really seriously thinking about doing a retreat probably sometime in the spring of next year. So maybe in the spring of 2027. So if that would be of interest to you, would you travel to Sedona? Would you do something like that? Would you want to participate in a retreat? So let's see. People are just commenting in some of my comments. I don't think you could do the Grand Canyon. I know, I get it. Catherine is saying, Scott, your music puts me into that state where I listen to it. I love that about Scott and his music. Laurie, have you ever sat in the pyramids of Egypt? Yes, I have. In February of 2027, I was fortunate enough to travel with Robert Edward Grant and a group of other like-minded souls. And we traversed through Egypt for 2 weeks. We had 2 boats that accommodated the people that were on this trip, and we visited many temples, many pyramids. But yes, we did spend time at the Great Pyramid, and Robert was able to get a special pass and have a pyramid trip where it was only our group. We went in groups of 3. We had it booked all night, and I got to spend a couple of hours in the Great Pyramid. I got to lay in the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. I was lucky enough. I left the King's Chamber and I went down to the Queen's Chamber, and I had a few minutes of that place to myself. And then another woman joined me, and she and I did like a little, like an exercise, I'll call it, inside the Queen's Chamber. And then I felt very called to go down to the subterranean chamber. You guys, you have to crawl down like on your hands and knees, down on a massive slope, down, 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 down in the subterranean chamber. And you walk in, and it's this massive room, and it has a giant, giant open water well, like a almost like a pond. And it has these rock formations that you can kind of climb up on. And it was eerily quiet. It is the most muffled, soundless place I have ever been in my life. And I was there for a few minutes by myself. And that was an extremely eerie and slightly, I won't use the word scary. I wasn't scared, but I was like, what in the world am I doing? How did I get here? It was incredible. They saw different things. People saw people turn into Octurians in our group during a massive meditation in the King's Chamber. People who I trust and believe and know we're not making this up saw that and experienced it. And I left my body for a couple of seconds when I was laying down in the King's Chamber, in the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. Like, you don't normally get to do that. Like, I felt so privileged to be able to do that. I understand how lucky I was to be able to do that with this group of people. It was absolutely incredible. So yeah, it was unbelievable. And I did interview Robert Edward Grant after we came back from that trip, and I released some really cool shorts about my Egypt trip, and it was a trip of lifetime. Really, really glad that I went. There were parts of it that I just was utterly and completely shocked that you can't prepare for a trip to Egypt, because the massiveness of what you see, the advanced technology that they use to create the pyramid, to create these different monolithic structures, it was just otherworldly. And I think it may have been created to a large degree otherworldly. So yes, Scott, that was a great question. Yes, it was amazing. Donna said she wants to come. Mike says he wants to visit the vortexes, many episodes of Ancient Aliens. Like, I know Sedona. Like, I've extensively hiked and spent a lot of time in these vortex areas. Catherine said that Robert Grant was talking about that, what he saw in the pyramids, how the whole universe opened to him. Yes. Yep. That was on our trip. Catherine said, yes, he had the OBE. What year was that again? The Egypt trip. The Egypt trip was last year. So I went in February of 2025. And actually, it was the end of January and beginning of February. So yeah, my dog Storm, I had to put her to sleep the day before I left on that trip. It was absolutely heartbreaking. So it was like the worst of times, the best of times. Like, how do you lose, like this pet that you're super in love with and have to get on a plane? And I didn't even talk about it to anybody for many days because I just couldn't. And then I couldn't process my emotions about that death until I came back. So it was such a weird emotional state to be in. But I had dreamt of going to Egypt for a long, long time. Like, I remember seeing King Tut's sarcophagus on the cover of National Geographics at my grandparents' house, like when I was young, and having a fascination and like reading all those articles. And anyway, it was really amazing. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Juan, for joining late, and of course, you guys can catch this in the replay. But listen, I want to remind you that you are a magnificent, powerful, beautiful, amazing soul. The power that you are is probably what you would imagine the power of source to be. That's you. The power of source is 100% unimaginable from this human perspective. It is not possible to understand it inside the human brain. It's not. And the power that you are, though, is unbelievably magnificent. You are a being of love. You are a being of eternity. And you are here to have a magnificent experience. And even when those experiences don't feel so magnificent, please, please try to look at things from the perspective that everything is happening for you, for your highest and greatest good. And even in the darkest things that happen, there are beautiful ripples that happen as a result of those experiences. And you signed up for all of it, and it's here for you to fall in love with, really. So, my wish for you is that you are creating a life that you are truly in love with. So, thank you for your support, for your love. Thank you for supporting everybody in these comments. Thank you for wanting to be here. And for those of you who tuned in later, thank you so much. And I'm just so grateful for every single person on this channel. Thank you for what you do, for your support, for your comments, and just for being here. So I hope that it helps you in some way. It is truly a labor of love. So have a wonderful week, everybody. And I will look forward to seeing all of you next Wednesday. And thank you for what you are doing to wake up the collective. It is so needed right now. Until next week.